want to thank you, Commissioner Gross, for joining us today. We are so grateful to have you as part of our Dot Talk series. It's part of our programming at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dorchester. We appreciate and respect everything that you and your department are doing to keep us safe during these times. We just want to say thank you.
And thank you as well for your support. Just know you're a part of one of the best community policing models in the country. I often tell folks of the great working relationships that we have with you, with our young people in the city. And it's because of things like this: true dialogue, tell it like it is, ask pertinent questions. You should be able to interact with any of your first responder family members, Boston Fire Department, EMS, and BPD. So it's an honor. And look at our future leaders. Way to go.
Yes. Commissioner, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Queenette Santos from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dorchester, and I'm the unit director at our site at Harbor Point. It's called the Walter Denny Youth Center.
I know it well.
Thank you. But you can call me Queenie, no Queenette, Queenie as well. I've worked at the club for over the past 25 years.
Wow.
I love the agency and the work that I do for them. Commissioner, when I came in, I said I would stay a year, and I'm 25 years in. During this pandemic, the club has not missed a beat. Our staff have worked so hard to keep the community safe and engaged to meet the needs of our families. You know, so we're sitting here with some amazing teams today, Commissioner. And to start us off, we would just like to know if there's anything that we can do as a community to help you during these difficult times.
Well, first of all, again, thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to meet the future leaders. What you can do is just make sure you stay engaged in the community and with the community. Here's why. No one's ever lived or worked through a pandemic before. And again, as I alluded to just a couple of minutes ago, our community policing model includes you. That means working in partnership with the community to solve problems, to support each other. So please support your peers as well as the seniors, because one day you're going to look back and say, you know what, during the pandemic, I did my part. I helped out my siblings, my parents, guardians, loved ones. I helped out the community, the seniors. Even by giving an encouraging word or just telling a funny joke, you're uplifting spirits. And also, people often think that your generation don't care about anything except games, money, music, and yourselves. You're going to be able to help break negative stereotypes and perceptions about your generation and show that you have earned the right to be called future leaders. So that's what you can do to help us, because the better people feel out in the communities, the more that they feel as though others care for them, the better interactions we have. So that would be it. Be the leaders that you are and engage the community in a positive way.
And thank you for that, Commissioner. So many of our families are concerned with the issues of domestic violence and the problems on the streets. Can you give us an overview of what your department is working on to keep our community safe?
Absolutely. As you heard, I'll keep saying community policing. So we have a family justice center, and everyone there have worked the communities. They've been street cops, so to speak. And what's key about domestic violence and prevention and things to help out families is communication and education. What does that mean? Communication means that I am talking to you, not in a condescending way, not in pity, but with empathy, sympathy, care, and respect. Just wanted you to open up and tell us what's going on in your life as pertains to domestic violence or any threats against the family. When you have that relationship where you can talk, then the education component comes in, where we're going to educate you about the services that are available to you. The services start with what do you need for your home? What's going on in your environment that we can remove you from a threat? Services include judicial services too. We will tell you your Massachusetts General Law Rights, Chapter 209A, Family Abuse Laws. We will give that to you on a card. It doesn't matter what ethnicity. We will find someone to explain it. And then we will walk you through the system. If you need restraining orders, if you need to be removed from that threat, we will help you do that. And here's the last piece that's very important. Sometimes family members that are violent, threatening others, and committed horrendous acts, you got to know their backstory. Maybe they had a horrible childhood where they were abused. So we will work with the family to help everybody get counseling. So in hopes in the future, you have a strong family unit. But if not, if you have an abuser, we will remove that person from the household. And if there are not any hopes of gelling that family together, even if that person is incarcerated, notice I didn't say any gender, I said that person, even if that person is incarcerated, it's our job as society to rehabilitate people when they go behind bars so that when they return to society, they're productive. So that's where we're at. Each of our 12 police stations have direct connects to the Family Justice Center with domestic violence detectives. As well, our stations really keep connected with the community. You can come to the police station, file an emergency restraining order. We're actually working as the courts now, since most of the courts are closed. So again, communication, educating folks that you may hear a court's closed, but you can go to the police station. We still have your back. And we'll work with you, not only to remove you from that abuser, but to heal the family unit, because everybody's gonna need counseling after that. Excellent questions.
Commissioner, we're just getting started with the questions. These future leaders here have set the stage pretty high, so we have some really great questions for you.
And before we proceed, you can ask me any question, anything. I often lecture at the colleges, and here's how it goes. Ask me any question. As long as it doesn't have to do with an ongoing investigation, we can talk about it. Whether it's like tough questions, what about Black Lives Matter? What about 21st century policing? Because you as future leaders, so I'm considered a leader. I arrived in Boston in '75 after living on a pig farm in Hillsborough, Maryland for 11 and a half years. So when I came to the city, I was a country hick, so to speak, with an accent, talking all goofy. I look different, dress different, act differently. Here's what I'm getting at. The community raised me. I learned from everyone. Good characters, bad characters. Do you know bad guys used to teach me the game, so to speak, so that I would not partake in the crime itself, but so I wouldn't get duped or be taken advantage of. So with that being said, if I was poor on a farm and then came to a poor community in Boston, I understand the aspects of and concerns of people living in socioeconomic strife, decades and decades of negative interaction with police and authoritative figures, and ones that are interested as well is in finding a solution instead of just having things being dictated to them, like, you need to do this, do that. So long story short, community raised me. The way you move forward in 21st century policing is to listen to people. Just because they're pissed off at you, find out why. It could be a negative interaction from themselves, their parents, a loved one, and it could go back decades. As a police department, we have to show that any negative interactions or policies or what we used to do in the past when things were very racist, that we learn from those are teachable moments, and that we're moving forward. That's why you can ask me any question, because the more I educate you about who we are and what we do in 21st century policing, then you're going to be the best ambassadors to go back in the communities and educate members of the community that although we're cognizant of what happened in the past, we're not going to let that happen again. And that now we do listen to the voice of everyone. That's why I will listen to each and every one of your questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to start with Grania, who is a freshman at Boston Collegiate.
So first of all, you're all WSPs, so thank you. Wicked smart people. So go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, Commissioner. I'm Grania.
Have to speak up a little bit, please.
Commissioner, sorry you're unable to hear her.
What are some?
Yeah, she's breaking up. Just relay it to me. I'll answer it.
Yes. Commissioner, her question was, what are some words of wisdom you would give teens to ease their fears during this COVID-19?
Wow. The first and foremost, stick together with your family and your friends. Don't give up. Because of modern technology, science, medical science, if we had faced this pandemic like 100 years ago, 3/4 of the city would be dead. So know that you're in one of the best states, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, one of the best commonwealths that has some of the best medical care in the world. So what does that mean? Don't lose hope. You're teenagers, you're teens, you're the future leaders. When people look at you, they should look at your leadership capabilities and see that you're not down and dejected, that you're leading the way. So the words of wisdom are, oftentimes, especially our older adults in the family and our younger ones, they don't understand what's going on as pertains with the CDC guidances, protocols, and recommendations for preventing COVID-19. You can help educate folks about how to adhere to those guidances, wearing masks, social distancing, washing your hands, anything like that. And as well, here's the big one. Even though our social services programs are impacted by social distancing and COVID-19, you can educate people about what we're doing now. We are communicating using modern technology. So, words of wisdom, be the future leaders that you are. You will find that you will face difficulties. So be strong, be safe, be strong, be wise, and be kind. So those are my words of wisdom. You're going to be leaders. I'm telling you right now, when you look back, when you're older and you look back, you're going to have bragging rights. Like, we worked through this pandemic and we were positive, and we weren't the teens that people were talking about that were doing negative things, but we were leaders. But we were working with teens to help them do positive things instead of negative. You're going to look back and say, hey, when the pandemic hit, we were doing our thing. We were leaders. We led the way. Bragging rights, that's what I call it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Beatrice, a freshman at Latin Academy, has a question for you also.
Latin. I went to Boston Tech, which is now called the O'Brien, so.
Yeah, my sister goes there.
Right.
My question is, are you concerned about the summer if teens do not have activities or jobs to be a part of?
That is an excellent question. You know, every morning at 8 a.m., I am on a conference call with not only the city cabinets, but other service care providers, other people in the city. It's about 70 to 80 people every morning, 8 a.m., with the mayor leading the way. One of the top questions is, what are we going to do for summer? As the city gradually opens up, and the social distancing, we should still be aware of it, but as we gradually open up the city, what are we going to do about finding jobs and opportunities for the youth in the community? As well, excellent question, because we often talk about this. People often think that we just concentrate on the teenagers that are doing the wrong thing. So we strongly emphasize that there are teenagers doing the right thing, and it's only 1 or 2% doing negative. So when we talk about finding jobs, internships, opportunity, recreation, we're talking about for everyone, because it often gets confused. We just got to take care of the bad kids. Wrong. We have to take care of all of our teenagers and our future leaders. So we are absolutely anticipating a possible uptick in violence because I always tell it like it is. I don't butter things up. The court system is not helping out our community. People carrying guns that have committed murder, gang violence, the courts are letting them right back out into the community without being rehabilitated. And when people see that, there's a mentality like we can do what we want. Now, what if you're a frustrated teen, right? There's no jobs, no money. You're going to think you can do whatever you want because, hey, they're just going to let me go. No. So our job right now is to work in partnerships, again, with our service providers and our partners to find things for you to do in the summer, to make sure we're going to have jobs, mentorship programs, things for recreation, and listening to your minds. So, yep, we anticipate trouble this summer, but we also anticipate success if we all stick together. And yes, this morning, I mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, the Y, some of the programs that we have going on that have been impacted by social distancing, that we're going to maintain that partnership. So guess what? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to talk about this conference call that we had. Because if I can do this, other people can be connected to the youth. And again, going forward in the summer, if we're adhering to social distance guidance and protocol, when things are lifted, okay, instead of having 20 people in the room, why can't I have 10 in the room, but the rest on Zoom? So we have to go to what I call, is a model called Back to the Future. We're gonna bring back some of the stuff from the past, like in-person meetings with social distancing, but as well, look to the future of this is how things are gonna be in the future. A lot of Zoom, a lot of virtual reality things. So we're gonna combine those two and keep it going so we can find things for you to do in the summer for everyone, not just this 1 or 2%, everybody. And yes, you will see me out there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Great questions.
Liliano, who is a sophomore at Berwick Academy, has a question for you also.
Where is Berwick Academy?
It's in Maine, South Berwick, Maine.
I was gonna say, hold on, man, I'm pretty hip, brother. I'm like, where is Berwick? I haven't heard of that. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. I love the background.
My question for you is, how do you keep the force motivated during these trying times?
Another excellent question. One of the things that keep us motivated, it may sound corny, but I don't care, it's the truth. Our motto, community policing, we have an 85% approval rating in a neighborhood, in a city that's 50 to 53% people of color. In other major cities, you have struggle and strife between all communities, but specifically Black and Brown communities. We have such a great relationship that the anti-police sentiment that a lot of major cities are experiencing, we're not doing that here, because we admit to mistakes in the past, show what we can do together, and it's working. So that's huge in keeping officers motivated, that when you're out there helping others, because others aren't adhering to the laws or guidances, that you know the people you're helping will not turn on you and they have your back. It's kind of like a family, like that keeps you motivated to keep your job going. As well, when you're a leader, and you all are, you have to lead from the top. If my troops are out in the street, I'm out in the streets. I don't know if you see me on TV recently, when there's things being done that impact the community in a negative way and the officers, I speak up about it. I'm not trying to protect my paycheck or some future job by being quiet and not addressing issues. So, and also educate people about their self-worth. You may hear negative things about police officers, they may hear it, and it may impact them. So your question is very important in law enforcement. Here's why. We must keep officers motivated so they can serve their community. They must know that they have self-worth and that they count. And anyone that thinks that police officers are robotic and they don't care or they're desensitized, it's unfortunate that I have to educate people about something that's detrimental to us. Here's a quick question. How do you think most police officers die in the United States? Is it bad guys, so to speak, car chases, accidents? What's the #1 cause of death for police officers in the United States? Anybody?
Is it suicide?
Yes, it is. So, sir, your question about motivation, what if the community, what if the mayor, commissioner, family members, what if we weren't motivating officers in the middle of a pandemic? What do you think would happen? It would affect your psyche, your mindset, the way you police, and you would definitely have some bad thoughts. And you'll probably be facing a grumpy, irritable, possibly suicidal person that just, you know what, if you don't care, I don't care. So motivation is key, but motivation must come from the community. It must come from the command staff, but definitely the people that we serve. And don't listen to the news like all teenagers have police officers. I kind of shut up a politician once that was calling me out as we had a basketball game with the youth where the youth were on the, and police were mixed. So it wasn't us versus them. Says, oh, but did they really like you? It's because you're feeding the teenagers and giving away prizes. People that weren't even part of the event were coming up, giving me hugs, shaking my hand, and they all look like you, right? Every ethnicity, every gender, right? But the common denominators, they were teenagers. So even a high from a teenager goes a long way because it's not happening in other major cities. So any way I can motivate officers, doing funny stuff, showcasing their good work, showing that people care, we do it. And one last thing, we lost an officer, Jose Fontanez, because of COVID-19. If you do not showcase the sacrifices that are being made by our officers on the front line, then morale will go down. We've had 84 people test positive. One person has died. We still have 39 folks out. We've had people quarantined. But to pick up the slack, a lot of us had to work double shifts, doing things that you probably didn't want to do, but we have to step up and protect our officers in the city. So motivation, excellent question again. You have to motivate to make sure that we can serve you the best that we can. So thank you. These are WSPs, wicked smart people.
Thank you. Next, we have Audra, who is a senior at Boston Latin School.
Boo! So back in the day, Boston Tech, the rival was Boston Latin. Okay.
Hi, Commissioner. My
Thank
question
you for
is.
wearing Boston Tech colors, blue.
Oh, sorry.
No, thank you.
When did you realize that you wanted to be in the law enforcement as a career?
Oh, that's so cool. It's funny too. So remember I said I was on a farm for 11 and a half years? There was one TV. There was no such thing called a remote control. I was the remote control. You had to hold the antennas or change the channels. So my grandmother, who no one touched the TV but her, all she watched was television shows about sheriffs, detectives, law enforcement, FBI. I would ramble off a whole plethora I don't say that word, of titles, but you don't have to Google it. But so just Google law enforcement shows from the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? So long story short, while watching those shows, and some were comedies, you also had education, conversations about what was taking place in those shows. Even back then when race relations were strained, and in cases they still are, we had discussions about justice, equality. It's tougher to be good than bad. What would you do in this situation? What would happen if you were met with this? What happens when you're on the other end? Because a lot of these television shows, sometimes they had the wrong person. And we had this show called Perry Mason. People would be guilty in the eyes of everyone else, and he would prove that they're innocent. So the many discussions had by Grandma, who I love, God bless her, went on to heaven, kind of motivated me and stuck with me. So that same foundation about justice in society, and don't let people bully you, and don't let bullies bully others. But then the keen wisdom of find out why people are bullying. Something happened to them. So since I was on a farm, growing up in the city, seeing injustices, I wanted to be a police officer and help people. So imagine coming from a pig farm talking like this here, and then coming to Boston where I'm talking like I am now. And from 1975, just a few short years later, in 1983, I'm on the police department at the tender age of 18 and a half after graduating from Boston Technical High School in 1982. So imagine how popular it was being in a poor Black, Latino, and Cabo Verde community talking about you wouldn't mind being a cop. What pushback do you think I received? I was called Uncle Tom, sellout, as I grew older and said, yeah, I am going into it. But oftentimes when you're being criticized, there's an opportunity there teaching you because you're leaders. When people are criticizing you, this offers you an opportunity to educate them. One of the reasons you can't mess with me racially and try to affect my mind is because I know my history and I know my self-worth. When I talk about history, all inclusive American history, world history, biblical history, we all built this country. We've all contributed to medical science, astrology, the building of cities, the winnings of wars, and a change of not only the way the Constitution used to be, but a change to amendments that make sure that we're all treated equally. So, law enforcement, having that strong foundation of knowing your history and your self-worth to educate people that law enforcement is not just for Caucasians back then, because there were wars between people of color and a predominantly white police department that had to be sued to let people of color in. And so it boils down to this. I said, if you want change, we have to be the change. You can't sit back and keep complaining. If you want change, get in there. And so, although I had some naysayers, I had a lot of support. And when I went into the police department at 18, with my attitude, like nobody's gonna tell me what to do. If I, you know what I found out? Good people are good people, bad people are bad people. And then that people that had reservations or hesitations about interacting with people of color, I educated them about biblical icons, people who fought in wars, inventors, everything that were either African-American, biracial, we're all God's children. So long story short, it's just something that I always wanted to do since a little kid. 3 things, and I'll end. Law enforcement, fighter pilot, football player. And I was able to accomplish all 3. Law enforcement, I'm here now. I play plenty of football. Fighter pilot, I fly online almost every day. So.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Even though you're Latin.
I always bleed purple.
Okay.
Trevor, a senior at Snowden High School, has a question for you also.
Good.
How you doing, Commissioner?
How you doing?
What was the feeling like when you were named Commissioner of the Boston Police Department?
Wow. That was the feeling. Okay, I'm back. Man, let me tell you something. It was a feeling of elation, but you have to know who I am. Again, remember my humble beginnings. How do you go from being on a pig farm to being a Boston Police Commissioner? How do you go from a pig farm to being the first African-American superintendent-in-chief, followed by the first African-American commissioner since 1854? My elation was for people that paved the way for me, the atrocities they went through. And I'm not just talking about African Americans. Anybody that fought for justice and equality in the old days were ostracized and criticized by others, right? For doing the right thing. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all of our seniors that paved the way, some were killed, some were injured, but they fought on until it's possible for me to be here in this capacity. So when I told you I was elated, I shed some tears, said some prayers of thanks to God for people that paved the way. That's how I felt. I felt like we did it. Your grandmothers, all of you, because again, there were plenty of Caucasians that fought for justice and equality, and they were injured and killed too. Watch the movie Selma and how one Caucasian reverend from Boston was killed supporting Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But that feeling of like, wow, like I never once say, hey, I did it. I'm like, wow, we did it. And to see a smile on your mother's faces and your relatives, but guess what I'm talking about when I'm talking about relatives? I've never seen my father before, except in a picture. But many men in the community of all colors helped raise me and were my father figures, big brothers and uncles. So when I'm saying we did it, to see their smiles on their face, wow, that's how I felt. But there's one important lesson here for all of you, especially at your ages now. When I came on the police department when I was 18 and a half, if you had asked me then, if you were going to be the first Black superintendent in chief, followed by the first Black commissioner, I would have said no. It would have been an unobtainable goal and a brick ceiling in my eyes because of the history of Boston Police Department and what the city had just gone through in forced busing, that they would not have been able to accept anybody of color or a female in the top leadership positions. Here's the importance of me mentioning this. When I was 18 and a half and I was given assignments, and then through my career, when I graduated the police academy and hit the streets as a full-fledged police officer, I failed to mention I was a Boston police cadet before a police officer. So in '85, when I hit the streets, I did my job, fair to everyone. I had people older than me that said, you're gonna be a boss one day. And I'm like, not me, not me. Hey, you know what? You're a good leader. We like how you handled this situation. You're gonna lead one day. I'm like, yeah, right, not me, not me. Here's what I'm saying. The adults on this video conference, do you know we have a vision for you, even though you can't see it yet? That we know you have the potential to do whatever you want, even though you can't see it yet. That's why it's an honor for me to be on this video call so I can do what was done for me. I'm telling you right now, I thank people every day. And trust me, there's a lot of folks, when they tell you things later on, when it comes true, they be like, I told you so. So they're always bothering you. So I get a lot of those. Didn't I tell you he was going to be commissioner? I'm like, I know. So realize this. We have a vision for you before you can even see it. And a lot of times the people that said, you're going to be this and that, they got on my case when I wasn't doing the right thing, or they saw me doing things wrong. Or if I was that angry cop at times, they're like, no. You're going to be a leader. We're going to correct this right now. So sometimes the people that have a vision for you will be on your case. They will correct you. You will receive constructive criticism, but with their wisdom and guidance to help you see your potential, that's where it's at. So when I was thankful, it was for everyone that led the way, everyone that was in my face saying, I told you so, brought a smile to my face, and I said, we did it. And lastly, I didn't do a separation of church and state. When I was sworn in, it was in my mama's church. That's how we say it. Morning Star Baptist Church with 1,000 people. You want to know who was in the audience? Teens were on the stage with me because I talked about the future. And we had John Henry from the Red Sox. We had people from the community. We had people that had been incarcerated that are my brothers and sisters still, but are doing the right thing now. That was the win. That's what I'm talking about. We, our nation, the strongest in the world. This is what it should look like, and this is what you future leaders should be concentrating on, and that no matter what you look like, your choices of lifestyles, that we should be working together. And that, are you kidding me? It had to be a we to get me here. A poor kid from a farm, right? In a city that had socioeconomic and racial strife to be here. Yeah, that was a wow. Oh my goodness, we did it. So I'm still psyched. And I don't care who thinks it's corny, but that's how I felt. Thank you. Thank you as well for wearing Boston Tech colors, blue and white. Thank you. Hear that, Latin and Latin Academy? I don't know about me, man. I don't know what the school colors are up there.
Rama, a sophomore at the John D. O'Brien School,
Yes,
has a question
thank
for
you.
also.
All ears now.
Hi, Commissioner.
Hi.
I was
See, I'm talking about blue and white, right?
Yeah, I have
Tigers.
the sweater right here.
What? Oh, man. I used to have my football jersey here, but never mind. Go ahead.
I was wondering, how is the Boston Police Department helping keep first responders safe during the COVID-19?
Excellent question. The first thing we do is we have to educate our officers and Boston Emergency Medical Services and the Boston Fire Department. We have to know what we're facing and what we're dealing with, because we cannot shelter in place, because we work for you. We respond to emergency situations. Remember when I talked about the suicide rate?
Yeah.
So almost just as high is, we call it stress-related illnesses, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. We're higher than any other profession, the first responder family. So COVID-19 is really attracted to all that. So great question about how do we protect each other, education about that. And then you've heard in the news, everyone uses acronyms, but hardly ever explains what they are. PPE. PPE means personal protection equipment. In our 84 or 85 positives, I think that could have been prevented if we had learned early on that we should wear a mask all the time and that social distancing, because again, you're riding with a partner in police cars, or you're in the station. No one had masks on, right? We thought we'd only put on a mask if we encountered someone with symptoms, and that it was known that this certain area in this apartment building, there's 5 or 6, that's when we put on masks. So to protect ourselves, we had to continue to be updated and educated about this complicated virus. And then we had to make sure that we had face shields, protective gowns, and face masks, and that we constantly enforce the messaging about guidances and protocol. Because if you think teenagers are hard-headed, cops are 10 times. Put on your mask, man. Put on your mask. No, I don't want to hear it. Put on your mask. So you have to throw a little enforcement on enforcement too, to make sure that we're safe and sound. So education about the virus, personal protection equipment, and that means on and off duty. So when I go home and I'm out in the streets with my neighbors, I still have to practice the guidances and protocol. And here's another incentive. Make sure you're fully protected so you don't bring stuff at home. But if you think that you have the potential, because of your interaction with people that are positive, of passing something along and that you may be infected as well, the colleges, our private sector, the mayor, they have set up housing for police officers. At colleges, we use dormitories. Like if I've been at a tough call, I'm like, I'm not going back home for 14 days because I have children. And don't forget that a lot of times our families have ailments. They could be suffering from cancer, autoimmune deficiencies. So we do not want to bring things home. So we have places where we can go until we can make sure we're safe. But what if an officer is COVID-19 positive? We also have a motel that we can go, where they can go, and we can provide medical services for them so that we don't infect other officers or our families. So that protection goes a long way. It's not just that, hey, give them a mask and a face shield, but you have to think, what happens if you get it, right? What happens if you're infected? You have to stay at home in quarantine. You have to be medically cleared to come back, because you're protecting the rest of the workforce. We're it. We're it between good and evil. We're it. So if you didn't protect your officers, what if all of my officers were out at the same time, what do you think the bad guys would be doing? They would applaud it. There's people that want us all to be sick, but tough crap, it's not happening, because that same question that you asked, we ask at the beginning stages of this pandemic, and we ask questions each and every day, and we're learning each and every day. So I'm proud to announce now that we have 39 officers out instead of 84, and about 20 civilians. So those numbers have been dropping because protection, protection, protection. Excellent question from the O'Brien.
Thank you.
Elvis, a freshman at South Boston High School, has a question for you also.
I love South Boston. I started patrolling there too in 1985.
My question is, what makes Boston a safer city than all the other urban cities?
Another great question. All right, we're gonna have a little fun. Where do you go to high school? South Boston?
Yeah, Excel.
South
Excel.
Boston?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when I came to the city, there was a race war going on in 1975 because of forced busing? There were inadequacies in the school system. So school systems in Southie, Hyde Park, were probably better than schools in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. A federal judge, Arthur Garrity, came into the picture and says, hey, Boston is still segregated. This is racist. Okay, he had a point, but then he committed a mistake. You cannot tell the neighborhoods of Boston what to do. You cannot force them. So here's what was done. He forced the neighborhoods of color to go to schools that were predominantly Caucasian, and forced the Caucasian kids to go to schools in neighborhoods of color. What do you think happened? Parents flipped out. The kids were in the middle of this, right? And it was an entire race war. It was crazy. But you would not have been able to go to South Boston High without rocks, bricks, glass, and everything being thrown at you. Living through all of that, right? In advancing ourselves, we also advanced our police department. So here's the culture of policing in the past. You give me the gun, you give me the badge, you call me, I tell you what to do. I didn't take suggestions from you. I told you what to do. Wasn't really interested in learning about anybody and their cultures. When I came on, we were still going through it. I'm a police officer, you respond to a call. Well, that's just how they are. And trust me, this wasn't just white towards black, because I saw plenty of African Americans say, well, you know, that's just how they are. But I was the goofy kid in the room that was like, well, so tell me about your culture. So why did you do that? Where did you do that? So long story short, the reason why we're one of the safest now is because we changed our culture to be a model of community policing. We had to do it because people were dying. We had to do it because from 1990 to 94, 40 to 60 teenagers were being killed every year. Everybody was in individual silos. Everybody was still feeling the effects of separatism between communities because of their color or their socioeconomic status. Why do I mention socioeconomic status? Because if you were in Hyde Park or West Roxbury, you're considered to be a rich Caucasian. And people in Hyde Park and West Roxbury and Rosendale did not like kids from Dorchester that were Caucasian, or South Boston or Charlestown. So it didn't matter. The key point is everybody was in their individual silos, and the drug dealers, gang members, because crack affected every neighborhood, not just black and brown and Cabo Verde, everyone, we were losing. So we, as a city, decided to get out of our individual silos and combine the services of police, judicial system, clergy, parents, institutions of higher learning that will help us look at problems through a different lens instead of that old police lens. That's how they are. No. Why are people selling drugs? What happens when you break up a family? What happens if you're in an area of high unemployment? What happens if, no. So we all learned how to work together, listen. To this day, Boston has the top programs and initiatives that lead not only the rest of the country, but also the world in community policing. And trust me, don't get it twisted. When I say community policing, I'm talking about each and every one of us. That's us together. We have bragging rights more than the Patriots. The Patriots win games. This collaboration has won games of life, right? And changed mindsets. We're safest because everybody, almost everybody, there's still some, everybody commits to making our cities as safe as it can be. But I have to explain something though. What about the people who aren't committed to that? Here's what I'm saying. Some people just say, you know what, that's bull, I'm not buying in. Remember what I said before, criticism affords you the opportunity to educate. What do you think about this phrase, stop snitching? Do you think that's prevalent in Boston?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Wrong. You want to know where it's prevalent? Gang on gang disputes. We're on before news cameras, and I'm talking about a crime. Just peep me next time. See what I say. I thank the community for calling in. People wouldn't call before. People were calling 911. When they call 911, it was like that kid over there or that person here. They're giving information. And also, you have to realize for people to come forward, you have to make sure they're safe. Witness protection program. What if you're like, hey man, I don't care what you say. I don't want anyone to have my name. You can call in 1-800-494-TIPS, right? Again, education, communication leads to also educating people that not one of our communities in Boston, including the neighborhoods of color, because that's what people concentrate on when they talk about that's how they are, like those communities are desensitized to violence. They don't know that the community is kicking in and that we are working together to lock up people or change behaviors that lead to an unsafe city. Now, before I close out on that one too, right? It's not all about cuffs. That's the last resort. If you'd like, Sweetie and Patricia, I want to email you, this group, all of our programs and initiatives. So you can see, you can read for yourself what I'm talking about, how effective it is when we're working together. We would have never done this in the past. This panel would have never looked like you in the past. All of this is key to changing mindsets like this is our city. When those cowards bombed us in 2013, they were arrested in 101 hours. That scene was cleared in 22 minutes by everybody of all colors because we were working together. That mentality definitely carries on. So while other major cities last year, one homicide's too many, they were experiencing from 300 to 600 deaths. Boston had 38. So when you have people, now that doesn't work, wrong. It does work. When you teach families, you do count. This isn't the old days. Another thing you'll see me say on TV is like, if you can't be rehabilitated on this side with all of our programs and initiatives, you have to be rehabilitated on the other side. What does that mean? When you're incarcerated, we as leaders have to make sure there's programs and initiatives in place for rehabilitation. First of all, to address your physical and mental health needs to show you that you are a person of worth. Whatever made you do what you did, you can overcome that, that you should be at a point where you're coming out where you're apologetic. Like, sorry, I did that. I've overcome what made me do that, but now I'm ready to come back to society. And now I've received education, job training, and everything. So I know this seems like a long answer, but it is a long answer because you have to make sure that we're like, lock them up. Okay, what happens when you get out and you have no skills? You're gonna go right back. It's called recidivism, right? So Boston Police, working with the Sheriff's Department, corrections, man, I even go to prisons, not recently because of COVID-19, to take part of their restorative justice program. So education again, rehabilitation, all of that works in. Look at us as a village, right? Villages working together. All right, this piece of the village, these guys from the village didn't listen. Now we put them outside, rehabilitated, come back to the village. Do I want them coming back to the village, not rehabilitated? No, because that affects your crime numbers and your safety. So in closing, excellent question. When you see me on TV going against judges for releasing dangerous persons, repeat violent offenders back in the community, here's the reason I'm doing it. Notice I didn't say nonviolent. I'm talking about people who pick up guns, rape, robbery, domestic abuse. They just don't care. If you release folks back into the community because of a potential for catching COVID-19, it's wrong, because your taxpaying dollars dictate that that person is supposed to return when they're fully rehabilitated. And you're taking a person out of an environment where they have 3 meals a day, lodging, and you have physical and mental health, and you don't need to buy anything. And then you're putting individuals back into neighborhoods, and then some of these neighborhoods have tested the highest for COVID-19 positives. You're putting individuals back into neighborhoods before they're rehabilitated without a reentry plan. Where are you gonna live? How are you gonna eat and drink? Where's the money? Where's the job? And where is the health care? Does that make sense? No. So when I advocate for judges to be responsible, it's all because I wish each and every one of you will never have to experience acts of violence committed against you. And people are like, oh, you're angry. I'm not angry, I'm passionate. Again, I came from a farm, I'm here. People looked out for me, it's my job to look out for you. So if a judge that has no clue, has not been to Dorchester, Southie, Mattapan, Hyde Park, West Roxbury, if they have no clue and they're trying to hide behind words instead of common sense, I'm gonna call them out all the time because of safety.
That was a good one. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, next we have Brendan, who is a senior at Boston Latin, and he has a question for you also.
Purple. Okay, go ahead. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
How has crime rates been affected by Corona?
Oh, there's been an uptick in violence, right? So last year, compared to this year, we had 47 people shot. Now we have 58 people shot. Last year we had 10 people die as a result of handgun violence. Now we have 11 people that have died as a result of handgun violence. There's an uptick in robberies because people don't have jobs, right? Commercial burglary, B&Es, commercial. And but residential, because we're all home, those are down by 50%. So yes, COVID-19 has impacted the communities that we serve. And again, whether people are hell-bent with criminal enterprise on their mind, or some people do things out of necessity for survival, there is an uptick in some categories of crime. We had a question earlier, one of the first questions about domestic violence. Yes, people were forced to stay home, and some are forced to stay home in an atmosphere where there is aggression. And trust me, when you have to stay in the house, you will be getting on each other's nerves. I'm not saying that I am condoning that violence. I'm just telling you like it is. Things happen. Imagine a Thanksgiving dinner where you just have to spend one day with some relatives you don't like, right? But imagine if those are violent relatives that abuse you and beat you. Now you're, because of a pandemic, you're stuck in that house. So we're working real hard with the community to let them know that, hey, you can still impact this and bring these numbers down. And we definitely want to do that before summer. Excellent question. As you can see, I tell it like it is. You have to educate the public that we're here to provide you services for counseling. So when you hear me or see me on TV, 1-800-494-TIPS, followed by 617-431-0125 to provide neighborhood counseling services. You can call them, you can meet them. Most people are embarrassed by the word seeking counseling. So even talking to you on the phone, but we're going to help that mindset and help you deal with the struggle, strife, and trauma of being in the middle of a pandemic and dealing with the negativities that go along with it. So great question, but we don't give up. We're first in the nation, and this nation began in Boston. So let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, we have Kaylee, who is also a senior at Boston Latin.
Oh
who
my
has a question.
goodness. Is this a CO conspiracy to bring all these Latin folks? O'Brien, we got this, right? We good.
Hi, Commissioner.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, you just brighten me up. You're like, hey.
Hey. So my question is, what's your favorite part of your job that many people don't know about?
Oh, that I'm goofy and I talk to everybody. And here's why, because most people think, and you know, you've seen it on TVs and movies and all this. Check out the TVs and movies and see how the commissioners act. They're like, it's a pleasure to be online with you today, and I look forward to answering your questions. And I'm sorry right now that I have to make sure that this is my persona, because I can't show a sign of weakness if I laugh and I joke. This is serious. I have to be serious. Come on. I'm a thankful brother that I was even able to make it this far. So a lot of people are surprised when they meet me that we have conversations about everything. I'll laugh and I'll joke, but when I have to bring it, I bring it. I have my serious side. I love being a teddy bear, but there's a grizzly in here too. But other than that, it is just so tiresome to walk around like you're the big badass. Hey, can't show any sign of weakness. I can't show, no. So people are surprised that I'm a person, that I laugh, I joke, that if I'm on camera sometimes, or if I'm at meetings, yes, I do become angry when people do horrible things to children, a 10-year-old being shot in her own apartment, or a 17-year-old female being gunned down in the streets. And then you're before cameras and people ask you questions like, Commissioner, are you angry? What do you think I'm gonna say? I'll tell you, in other law enforcement are like, there's some a bit perturbed, but no, wanna know what I said? I'm like, yeah, I'm pissed off, and here's why. This should not be tolerated. So people are very surprised that I don't fit their stereotypical view of what commissioners look like and how they act. You probably wouldn't recognize me if I'm testifying before Congress, before a president's commission, city hall hearings. I'll inject a little humor, but when it comes to business and handling the business of being a professional, yes, I have that balance. Notice folks, I said balance. Very confident you're all gonna be big bosses one day. You have to have balance, right? You do not need to, if you're doing things properly, have to go around telling people, I'm the boss, right? My top mentor was a Tuskegee Airman, African-American pilot in World War II when the country was very prejudiced. And still, to help out the world, fighting for the Allied forces, and then coming back to a still segregated America, this pilot, my mentor, helped with the civil rights, human rights movement, helped to educate people about African Americans and break those stereotypical views and perceptions, and still went on at the time one of the most prejudiced police departments in the country. But then again, you want change be to change, help pave the way for me. So I want to pass on to you what he taught me that will serve you well. People do not work for you, they work with you. That's the balance you must have. That's why when you see me out there, I'm laughing, I'm joking, or I'll show emotion, I'm sad, because I don't have to go around telling people I'm the commissioner and I have to be this way. I don't have to tell my troops, I'm the commissioner, you do this and that. I worked on almost every position in the department, from the worst to the best. So That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Commissioner, we just want to say it's been so great to spend this time with you this afternoon. We thank you so much for your commitment to us, really, and our communities. As part of our DOT talks, we always ask our guests the same question. What are you looking to do that you haven't been able to do when this pandemic is over?
That I haven't been able to do that I usually do?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. You're not going to believe it.
What is it?
I want each person to try to guess. All right. I'll give you some categories, right? To just kick back and relax at home. So go get some good food like steak, cheese, lobster. To like, I don't know, entertainment. Or get back out there and give hugs in the community. Which one you think it is?
Number 4.
Give hugs in the community.
Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many people yesterday, we had a news conference, and it was like 15 clergy, and like 5 of them was like, we know you're hurting, huh? It's like, why? All these people around you want to hug you, and you can't, huh? I'm like, I know. So, yeah, I one of the things I sorely miss is interaction with the seniors. I implore you to talk to seniors, even those with jaded concepts, right? Because you learn so much from seniors. And you want to be told the truth, right? Seniors have no filter. They are not going to butter it up for you. Maybe unless it's your, I know my grandmother wouldn't, but I really miss talking to seniors. I still talk to them, but there's nothing like just coming up, shaking their hand or giving them a hug. Because remember, they went through a lot. So I could be here in this capacity. When I was talking about South Boston, when I was patrolling in '85, that's just 10 short years away from forced busing. I remember being on patrol in plain clothes in an unmarked car, going past a group on E Street and West Broadway, and the group was like, whoa, those are black cops. So what do you think I did? Do you think I got out and cussed them out? Nope. I got out laughing. It's like, yep, just like 48 hours, I'm here. And we start laughing and joking. They were like, we never seen this before. Gee, to get out and interact with people, because every opportunity you have to interact with seniors and people is every opportunity you have to potentially make the city better through interaction and teaching people that no matter what you look like, we want good opportunities for ourselves, our families, a great job so we can buy whatever we want. I'm a big techie, so I love building computers and playing around and gaming. All of that, the hugs. Who's gonna expect the police commissioner to give them a hug, right? Or to go in Southie and say, hey, in the St. Patrick's Day parade, you started out at front, but you ended at the end of the parade. Why? I'm like, because 1985 till now, in every section of the city, I have families, extended families. So if you see me at events, the mayor is often like, he'll take off and he stops, I stop. It takes us forever to get through a parade, but that's what I miss, the interaction with people, even going behind bars to help our brothers and sisters. I would love to meet you all in person. And here's an invitation. I've had 700 students between when I was chief and commissioner come to my office. Because if you could see my office right now, my computer's too big to turn around, you will see that it's set up like a museum. We have the swords of King Solomon, the Ark of the Covenant, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, bobblehead doll, a Kennedy bust, Tutankhamun, the Marquis de Lafayette, George Washington, the pyramids. I teach all-inclusive American history, world history, and biblical history so people can know that everyone built countries, systems, faith-based organizations and societies, and that we're all God's children. So you have to come and visit my office. You're gonna love it. We have a lot of fun here. So that's it. Interactions. I miss it, I miss it, I miss it. But don't think I don't miss a steak and cheese too.
So we thank you again, Commissioner, and we do accept that invitation to
Thank you.
visit your office when we are able to go out again. From all of us at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dorchester, we hope you and your department stay well, and we definitely look forward to seeing you soon.
Yep, and invite me back again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad that we all say Dorchester.
Just, all right, we do have a request, okay?
Sure.
Our new motto is, "We are Dorchester."
We are Dorchester.
So we say, "We are Dorchester."
We are Dorchester.
And may I add on something that I think is kind of poignant? It's like, we are Dorchester. Stay safe, stay strong. Boom. There you go.
There you go, Commissioner.
That's awesome.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right.
And
Take
have a
care,
great
everybody.
weekend.
Thank
Thank you.